Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
had, oh, sorry, I should hit the record. Because I had a German teacher in the 10th grade who was Uwe.
It's Uva. I heard somebody say Uwe, but I don't think that's right.
No, no. See, I'm going by my German teacher who was Uwe.
Yeah. I mean, say what you want. I don't know. He's not gonna give it. He's not gonna like challenge anybody to a boxing match over this.
Are you?
The funniest thing I heard about that, which I didn't know, was that some people claim that he roped them in like that was just going to be like PR, and then he actually like beat the shit out of them. Like they weren't expecting that. Like they had kind of agreed that we were just going to like play around. So that was their side of it at least, and then he just like punches them like as hard as he can. It was just, like trying to murder them basically.
But there's apparently at least somebody who like actually could fight who he backed out of the like Uwe Boll backed out of the fight, and I don't know the details, but it's just internet scuttlebutt. Oh shit!
Sorry, I just did the
screens.
count. You're 91 for this one. I don't know. Shall we roll it?
In at number 91, it's the film of the game you haven't heard of.
Being the non-gamer here, being the
what? There's a game.
Yes, this is a video game movie. I only figured this out 10 minutes ago looking at the YouTube page, having watched the director's cut of the movie.
Whoa.
Yeah, almost 3 hour version, which was interminable.
13 extra scenes.
I thought the 2 hour 7 minute one was pretty good length. I
enjoyed watching this film. It was fine.
Yeah,
like, it had the Staith in it. I never don't enjoy the Staith.
Yeah,
how long are you, Luke?
I mean, it was an impressive. I was the 2 hour 7 minute one.
Okay.
But as we've discovered on this podcast, even good films like very rarely need to be 3 hours long.
Yeah, I mean, Statham has my vote for king, if that's ever a thing where you can vote for the king of England from another country.
Especially if he has that awesome boomerang, which is like the coolest part of the movie as far as I'm concerned, is that he uses the boomerang effectively, and it's, I don't know, that's like a weapon you don't get often. It's great.
Oh, this is our guest. Wait, should we introduce ourselves first?
No, do the guest first. That's exciting.
Guest first, Phil Freeman. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's everyone out there in the internet world?
Pretty good.
I built an air conditioning bubble for myself, as I can tell Luke has as well. So that's fun.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because it's real hot.
You think I'm going to sit here without my air conditioning on?
Since I live in a weird like ramshackle house, and one of my roommates is like 6'7", it's just always cold here. And it's America, where there's just central heat. Just
do tall people make things cold?
He's bigger, so I think that makes him want it colder.
To the sun.
Yeah. He's closer to God. He's more like a god.
Okay, like a king.
He's a frost giant.
Yes, like a frost giant.
Luke, can we get you to swear allegiance to Burt Reynolds or Jason Statham?
I'll swear allegiance to Jason Statham any day of the week.
Okay. How about 70s Burt on the bear rug, nude? Will you swear allegiance to that Burt Reynolds?
Maybe.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, he's not very English, I guess, though.
I like that none of the Americans even really tried to put on English accents in this film.
Why should
it's a fantasy land. Why bother?
I think I want to swear allegiance to Italian sorcerer Ray Liotta.
Yeah, I was going to say Ray Liotta couldn't be more out of place, but that's like the best part of it.
Yeah, he was dressed impeccably and was always just flying around and had kind of semi-cool CGI shit flying around all the time.
How familiar are you guys with the tradition of the British pantomime?
Not very.
So pantomime is just like a theatre production that's put on by like an amateur dramatics company, usually around Christmas time or so. Like very cheesy, very cheapo. They'll get like some mid-level celebrity will come in and play like the main villain or something. That's exactly what Ray Liotta was in this film. He was a pantomime villain.
I can go for that.
All right.
So now we got our guests introduced. I guess we should get the rest. It's Films and Filth. It's In the Name of the King today. I'm Matt.
I'm Luke.
I'm Mark.
And everything's in reverse today, isn't it? That's kind of cool. I like that. It's opposite day. But I think all of us did like legitimately enjoy watching this movie. Here's
Well,
my
again, opposite day. This is one of the filth list that I would put
Yeah.
above several of our films so far.
This is the only film so far where I was doing something else while I was watching it, and I was like, wait a minute. Wait, this is super cool. I'm gonna fast rewind a couple of minutes and then sit down and watch it full screen.
here is my thesis on this. Of course, there's Uwe Boll's reputation, which is an issue. Although, hey, you know,
Well,
it looks
this
fun
is-
here. But my main thesis is if this were 3 or 4 episodes, depending on which version you watched, of a 90s syndicated TV show, everyone will remember this with like very fondly.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
probably right.
because it was going up against Lord of the Rings, and that's kind of how it was pitched, I believe, and that's kind of where you get the similar scenes and like a lot of the helicopter shots, and maybe that's why people took it so harshly. But I was thinking the same thing. I was like, you could release this on streaming now, and people would not would shrug. Oh, that's pretty good. Like
Mhm.
the fact that this is considered one of the worst movies ever is pretty insane to me because it's competent on most levels. And then like the cast alone is like John Rhys Davies is in this. Like it's pretty insane. Like
Yeah, the
how many
cast blew my mind.
This is one of the best casts we've seen, period, so
I
far.
think it
And-
doesn't use that cast very well. You're not getting the best
No.
performances out of any of these guys.
That's true.
To be fair,
Well, I
But
was-
like
I
Jason Statham on like 5 on level 5 is still better than, I don't know, most of the
most
schlocky
on level 10,
whoever's
yeah.
better than Jason Patrick. I mean, you know.
Yeah. I was talking to Luke and my coworker yesterday. I was talking about the cast of this movie, and she was like, "Did he blackmail him?" So
No, it's just this is a huge tax shelter. So it's
Yeah.
like when you have a ton of money and you're moving it around in certain ways, you can just move it into people's bank accounts, Burt Reynolds' bank account.
I think I've already said this on podcast, but that's what needs to happen in these press conferences when Warner Brothers, like, you know, scuttles Batgirl or Paramount scuttles Star Trek Prodigy. They need to have the tax returns like in the press conference and like, no, look at these numbers. Seriously, we're not stupid. You are stupid if you do not go along with these numbers.
You need to just let Uwe Boll recut all those movies and release them. But, seriously, but the standout to me was Matthew Lillard as best.
Yeah.
Best I could describe it as someone who did a ton of cocaine and is having a stroke the entire time. He was incredible.
Evil
Like-
Shaggy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I could not take my eyes off of him. He was amazing.
I guess we're already talking about the cast, but people may legitimately listen to this without watching the movie, and we're saying now you probably actually should watch it. Maybe the shorter cut, but you probably should. But if not, Mark, are you ready to catch folks up on what happens in this movie?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. A man named Farmer is out farming in his farm because he loves farming. Suddenly, a group of orcs, Krugs, attack Farmer's farm. It is revealed that the Krugs are controlled by an Italian wizard named Galleon. They abduct Farmer's wife Solana and murder his son. After burying his son's corpse, Farmer goes out on a quest for revenge with his friend Norik. It turns out that Galleon is also conspiring with the king's psychotic nephew, Fallow, to usurp the throne and also siphoning magic from Muriella, daughter of Merrick, who's the king's mage. Fallow has his sights set on the throne and gets impatient, so he takes 2/3 of the army and leaves after failing to have the king poisoned. Meanwhile, sorry, I did a bad job with these. Meanwhile, Farmer and his party have teamed up with forest nymphs who help them fight their way out of the forest, and then Merrick senses Farmer while he's wounded and brings him to meet the king, where he reveals that Farmer is the king's long-lost son, a fact that neither of the men knew. There's then a huge battle between the king's army and the Krugs, and Fallow takes advantage of the confusion to mortally wound the king in the battle. As the king lays dying, he accepts Farmer as his son and heir, so Farmer will no longer be able to live a farmer's life anymore. His name is actually Camden, a much more normal name. Commander Teresh of the king's army challenges Fallow to a duel and is totally destroying him, but right before he gets the killing blow, he's informed that the king is dead, so he can't kill Fallow because Fallow is the new king. But then both men find out that the new king is actually Farmer, who nobody knew about until just then. Everyone pledges their loyalty to Farmer, and then he will never get to farm again. Soon they will put their revenge rescue justice plan in motion. Merrick distracts Galleon so Farmer can sneak in, Merrick is murdered by a bunch of swords that are made into particles that all stab him at the same time. Farmer has a sick magic sword battle with Galleon, and Solana stabs him to death, and Farmer cuts his throat. Farmer tells Solana he loves her. The end.
So I motion that from here on out, it's Magician Ray Liotta and Gandalf John Rhys Davies and so on.
Okay.
Burt Reynolds, because I'm not
Burt Reynolds.
Manic Pixie Dream
Even
Girl Lily Soblecki and so on.
Yeah.
There's even a Dollar General Legolas in this movie. Like that one dude is obviously supposed to be their
Yeah.
Legolas, but he's like very not that at all.
And a Terminator.
We haven't even gotten to Ron Perlman yet. Like, I mean, he's not really acting much in this,
Yeah,
but he just
a
needs to show
Terminator.
up. I mean, Ron Perlman.
This is
Beast.
this is Transformers movie, not Transformers, Monster Hunter movie. Ron Perlman,
Is this a better
just
Monster
like he wanted to
Hunter
turn
movie?
up, wear his costume, piss about.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised Nicolas Cage isn't in this. Like, it seems like it would be his wheelhouse. Maybe he wasn't quite doing this stuff yet, but this feels like his wheelhouse. For
Probably
Reason.
disappointed that he's not in it.
He's
yeah,
doing Season of the Witch, which is like very comparable to this movie in a lot of ways.
wonder if
Maybe
that's on the list.
Maybe Nick Cage had outstanding warrants in Germany at the time or something. I don't know.
Yeah. He probably owns a castle there.
Probably car stuff, you know. Probably has to do with cars.
He drove a car on the right side of the road, and then they like tried to arrest him.
I think in Germany you do drive on the right side of the
Yeah,
road.
it's just Britain and Japan that drive on the other side of the road from you guys.
Okay.
So you
I
can
saw
live
there
in
was
mainland Europe.
Oh, in Australia maybe.
there was some picture on the internet that was like some country switching from the left to the right side of the road for the first time, and it just had cars everywhere. I don't know which country that was. It was like Italy or something.
India's left hand of the road because they used to be part of the empire.
Yep.
So okay, as far as roads, did we spit out all the actors we needed to at least like once so far? That's why I screamed Ron Perlman because we missed him. And Solana, there's a character name. What is the actress's name again?
Claire Forlani.
Thank you. I don't know why her. I
She
know
was in
her.
Basquiat.
Yeah, she's familiar. I know her for some reason. Her face sticks name does not. So
Oh, and Mallrats also.
there we go. That's the big hit. That's where I
That's the
definitely
one.
remember. Yes, that's the one.
She didn't have a lot to do, but she was good.
So who is acting in this? I think we've decided Matthew Lillard is actually
Matthew
doing some
Lillard.
acting. Weirdly enough,
Yeah.
It was like Ray Liotta was.
he
He
having
wasn't
fun.
trying to do the accent, but he was getting into it. It was just like
Hmm.
a weird thing where his voice wasn't mixed loud enough or something like that.
Well, because he was in that weird mystical nether space. Everything goes like this.
You don't know what kind of power you can get. It was like that. It's like, yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, he was in like the New York dimension.
Yeah, it's like a good fella doing magic.
He looked great in this. He just was dressed so cool, and he was always just like,
Didn't he just pass away like this year?
yes,
And
his
he-
last movie was Cocaine Bear.
No, I
Okay.
thought he has one more coming out even.
Oh yeah, but I think
But yeah, he had like 5 movies come out posthumously.
yeah, I think Cocaine Bear was the last one he made, but the new one coming out was made before that. But he looked kind of rough in Cocaine Bear. Like
Yeah.
he didn't seem like he was doing that good. It's a
Not
good
bad.
movie though.
Seems like it's a cocaine bear. You won't do well around
Yeah.
the cocaine bear. I assume. I haven't seen it yet. So
I mean, that's not why he didn't look good, but you could say that. You could just say that. The bear
so-
gave him
I
cocaine.
did.
so he's
Yeah.
not acting, but he's having fun. Okay, so Matthew Lillard
But-
acting. He's having
He's-
fun.
He's having a lot of fun and
lot of
also
fun.
acting.
John Rhys Davies is given like every line way more gravitas than it deserves. I feel like he's really giving it, but I feel like he could do that in his sleep. So I don't know.
I was about
Yeah.
to say he never phones it in, right? I mean,
I think yeah, he and a couple of other people on the King side of things were. I mean, I was surprised how seriously Burt Reynolds seemed to be taking it. I mean, he was,
yeah, you think he would have had a little bit of swarm though. He was missing a little bit of swagger that you expect from a Burt Reynolds.
I mean, he's the king though. He was a good king.
You can be a
I
king
think.
with swagger. What about Mel Brooks? It's good to be the king.
Yeah, that's good to be a king.
I think Jason Statham, he was giving as much of a performance as he ever gives. I think Jason Statham understands that some films are good and some films are bad. He just turns up and does the film. Like, I think he's such a, he seems like such a, this is my day job kind of guy.
Yeah,
Like, he's like, well, they want me to shut up and do these scenes and have these lines. Okay. Like, he has no concept of like, oh, this one's cheese and this one's a good film. It's just like, no, I turn up, I say some tough guy things in my London accent, I kill a few monsters.
yeah, pose and look cool. I mean, that's the thing is you hear stories about people who are in huge bands and then they happen to play shows with like 3 people and then they kind of like just give the show their lives because they're just having fun with it. And that's kind of the vibe I get from him too, which is very likable.
Mm-hmm.
He also has really comedic timing if you ever see him in, I think he's Spy, but some other movies as well. Like he's actually,
yeah, he can be a really funny guy.
Like he understands that, like, you know.
Well, he started off doing the Guy Ritchie stuff, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason Statham is an absolute legend. I don't know how true any of it is. Apparently, when he was hired for his first movie, like Guy Ritchie just met him like actually selling stolen watches on a London street corner.
All right.
And prior to that, he was like an Olympic diver. That's why he's so like, you know, ripped.
All right. I think the first thing I saw him was Transporter. I don't maybe.
Yeah, that's what I remember him becoming big.
Crank. That's around this time. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Crank is
Crank.
amazing.
Crank is incredible.
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels blew my mind when I was.
Crank 2, he was dead. He got better.
Yeah, even though I did have to watch that with subtitles, and I think that's about the only British movie where I've like I need subtitles for this.
Not Snatch. Didn't need it for the other guy. Richie?
No, didn't need it for Snatch.
Okay.
You don't know what we're trying, you slag.
I mean, I guess the whole point is you're not supposed to understand Brad Pitt anyway, but
yeah, and also he's American, so I think
that makes it like
no matter what he does, I can kind of understand him. But
he's damned if he does, he damned if he doesn't. So he did something else. There's always a third option. That's right. So what is prime Statham territory? Is it nowish with the Fast and Furious movies? Is it
he's pretty he's kind of is. I mean, I guess if you want him in good films, then yeah, it's when he was doing all the gangster stuff. If you want him just at his peak star, it probably is now. He's got the Fast movies. He's got the second Meg coming out.
I mean, I think he was kind of the. I think Phil and
the samurai sword. You can't really beat that. Like as far as big blockbuster movies.
Phil, did you and I go see Expendables together? I feel like that was a thing.
At least a couple of them. Those are those movies that like should be way cooler than they are. And
I thought the first one was a lot better than the second. I didn't see the third, but he had one of the best lines I've ever heard anybody deliver in the first Expendables, where he's just like dressed as a priest, and then he says, "I now pronounce you man and knife," and then tries to stab a guy.
I have a soft spot for the second one because that is the last movie I saw in a theater that was definitely on film. Like in the theater, like being projected on film and not digitally. So, had the last movie I remember seeing cigarette burns on and that sort of stuff.
Huh. I don't know.
I liked the first one. I liked the second one. I lent my friend the second one on DVD and never got it back. And then stubbornly refused to watch the third one until he gives me my DVD back.
I think everyone
Who knows if he still has it.
I think everyone stubbornly refused to watch the third one.
I mean, I got nothing against it. Apparently we got a fourth one coming.
That's right. So
I heard the fourth one was like Stallone is in it for 5 minutes because he didn't want to. It's something like he didn't like the direction it was going, so he tried to back out of it, but he had to be in it a little bit.
Isn't that also what happened with Creed?
Yeah, something's going on with him. I don't know what's going on.
He's a quitter. That's what's going on.
But apparently Creed 3 is amazing. I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, and the last film I saw that was like Stallone's directive vision was Last Blood, which is like a heinous movie. So maybe I don't want to see the things that he would prefer to be doing.
Phil and I did see that. It was like pretty funny when he killed all those guys, but yeah.
But it was like,
but it's insanely racist. But around the time he chops that one guy's head off and throws it up the truck, it starts to get pretty good. For about 2 minutes. But yeah, it's like the way it depicts Mexico is like the most like racist thing I've seen in a like mainstream movie in a long time. It's just like every street corner is just like you're gonna get your kidney stolen or whatever. I don't know. It's just the most stereotypical American fear mongering bullshit. But yeah, it's pretty terrible. But he went insane with the gore and like a lot of his later movies, like the Rambo he made, where he's just been. Where is that, like
The
Cambodia?
Rambo
Four?
before this, the fourth
Yeah,
one? Yeah,
that
yeah.
was good.
I
It's just, like,
love that
That
one.
was good. That was good.
he just got like, obsessed with like carving up flesh and being covered in like lots of gristle and gore, I guess.
That's the last one I
I guess
saw.
he just
so I
realized he's allowed to do this stuff now, and he's like making the most of it.
right on.
That was some. It was almost like that movie was almost like watching somebody eventually like have sex, because it's just he's just sad and then he's sad and then he just like explodes with rage at the end and then he's done.
See, in
What I
Rocky,
love about that one is it seems to have like the moral message is that you have to learn that violence is good, because there's that like group of priests who are like refusing to fight, and by the end one of them beats a man to death with a rock, and it's like, oh, he's learned his lesson from Rambo. Violence does solve problems.
see, in
But I mean,
Rocky, he wanted to rip out someone's trachea, and they were like, "You can't do that. You're wearing boxing gloves." And he's like, "I can make it happen."
well doesn't
He
isn't
does rip
First
out
Blood?
tracheas in Rambo.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't First Blood have no death in it? Like no
There's
one
one
dies?
death in it.
There's one death.
One guy dies, he falls out of the helicopter. Yeah,
Yeah.
Isn't
So like Rambo
John
doesn't
Rambo
kill
supposed
anyone.
to die as well? Like that's
I
in
think
the book,
so.
and I think in the ending they originally filmed. Yeah,
yeah, but then they wouldn't have gotten so many.
they
sequels,
realized
so
it has
whatever.
sequel potentials. Oh, they didn't.
How about the violence in this movie? Maybe it was my director's cut, but the final battle did go on way, way, way too long. Maybe they added
Yeah,
3
it was your
scenes.
director's cut.
Okay.
The battles
I thought it was
in
dude,
this featured actual stuntmen on actual sets, so I loved it because
yeah,
I
I
haven't
could
seen that in
tell.
forever.
I could visually keep track of everything that was going on, every named character I knew. I could see what they were doing. I could see when Ron Perlman died, of like I could tell when visually when the guy got lit on fire and catapulted into a tree, catching the tree on fire, which fucking ruled. Yeah, it was
I would love to
pretty
bring that.
good. Like there was some sword stuff that didn't quite connect the way it was supposed to, but I didn't care. It's like it was overall very enjoyable to watch.
I guess maybe Bowl is like maybe good at nuts and bolts. Like we've said, there's so much different varieties of acting. It seems he's not really giving much direction there. But yeah, as far as set pieces, he does. I mean, he's at least got a, you want to make that tax return look good, right? So
I guess.
There's even some
Um,
like almost like Wu Jai kind of like kung fu moments, just like ninjas and stuff. And he does a decent job of the blocking and everything of that. Usually that isn't handled that well by white people, but he did a pretty good job with like all that, like all the bouncing off of trees and all this silly kind of like when they're traveling under the ground. That was pretty insane. Like I loved all that kind of old school kung fu movie stuff he would interject in there.
I mean, what are some other things that came out like aroundish this time? A year or two earlier was the third Pirates, which was incomprehensible, at least to me.
I didn't even see the third one.
Crystal Skulls around this time, where you get Mutt Williams,
Ugh.
having to fight CGI monkeys, which
The Crystal Skull, where every single scene that was supposed to be tense and dramatic was just them on chairs in front of a green screen while some stuff vaguely happened behind them.
I got
Well,
reenactment
Transformers. Sorry,
Transformers
one
is
came out
actual
this
good
year.
action, though.
Yeah, I think Transformers is better.
Transformers
than
gets lumped in as being comprehensible and bad, but it's not.
When Luke and
Well,
I rewatched the second one a few years ago, I was like, "Oh man, I do like this." Because in the theater, I was definitely like, but watching it again, I quite enjoyed the second one even. So
it might have.
It's like the only things that are fake in all those shots are the Transformers. Like when they kick up gravel, he's blowing that up on set and stuff. So that really adds a lot to it, I think. And he also really puts a lot of effort into like how they move and like the weight they would have, and it makes them feel like they're actually interacting with the world. And
I recently learned an incredible fact about one of the Transformers films. So the fourth one was shot in like 3D IMAX, and there's a scene where a truck power slides towards the camera, and one of the like I don't know, VFX guys, whatever, was sharing. He's like, basically, we realized there was no way to do this shot without crashing the truck into the camera and destroying it. So we called Michael and told him, and he's like, okay, how much do these cameras cost? And we're like, 500K. And he's like, okay. And they filmed the shot, and they just power slid a truck into the camera and destroyed it.
Yeah.
And it's like a 2-second shot.
Well, I mean, you can blow
But
up a
that's Michael
building for
Bay.
the same amount of money. What's the difference if it's a camera, right?
I mean, I just watched the fifth one. I know at least 2 of you have seen that, right?
I've seen
Oh, I
it
last
saw
once,
night.
it like multiple. I've seen it a few times.
and I got the
man.
Blu-ray for $1 at the rental apocalypse a few months ago.
What was
The
Stonehenge?
fifth one,
And King
One-
Arthur.
1/3 of that, maybe 2/3 of it, somewhere between 1 and 2/3 of that is like one of my favorite movies I've ever fucking seen. Like Cogman is just a complete psychopath. Like just having a
Yes.
transformer who's like the size of a man, but he just keeps like beating the shit out of Mark Wahlberg for no reason. And then the part where Megatron busts all the Decepticons out of jail and they all have names that are all like psychotic. I wish that had just been the whole movie. But anyway, the war stuff at the end was kind of boring, but there was a lot of good stuff there.
The gag
Everything-
with Cogman providing the backing music is genuinely one of the funniest things I've seen in a blockbuster in years.
I second
Yeah,
that.
and
'cause I was
Anthony
gonna bring it up.
Hopkins was having so much goddamn fun. Like there's the part where Anthony Hopkins says something to Mark Wahlberg, and he's like, "You don't understand, dude." And it just all right. Now we're gushing about Transformers films in this,
In this,
whole podcast.
yeah, I mean, and we're just like burning every bridge for every listener by like.
That's great. I hope a bunch of like real film dorks get into our podcast and then realize what we're like.
Okay, but other actiony movies, Hot Fuzz, which is also better than this. Let's see.
I
Not
did
a
wanna
lot of
ask-
action
My
movies.
hometown, baby.
Death Proof
Yeah.
and what do you call it? Planet Terror.
Luke, I don't know if you know the answer to this question or not, but does Europe have reenactors? Because I just got heavy vibes when in the States when they'll just
Oh yeah, yeah,
the Civil
absolutely.
War
There's,
reenactors.
there's a really famous episode of Peep Show where he gets in with some World War II reenactors, and then he realizes the guy he's made friends with is just actually a Nazi.
So in this one, I'm just like, does Germany have like Holy Roman Empire?
Oh yeah, yeah,
reenactors
yeah.
that-
That, almost certainly. That's probably what they got here.
That's
I got
what
a
I
lot-
was thinking.
Fair vibes for sure. Like Ren Fair was like filled out all the extras in this movie. I don't know. That's where they got them, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I
Uh,
was. I was just totally had that vibe, and that's not a bad thing. That's a great way to save money. Like Star Trek and Civil War actors, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think
Make your resources count.
stormtroopers. Yeah, I think stormtroopers get asked to do those a lot. Live Free or Die Hard, aka Die Hard 4.0, a movie which I do not think is as good as this movie.
I've only seen that
It's
once.
the Justin Long one.
I didn't
hated
hate
it.
it. Okay, I didn't hate
I really like that film, and I watch it every time a new Pokemon game comes out because I saw it in the theater and then went on the way home, picked up the new game, and it became like a little tradition for me.
All right.
I
So it's
did
like my
hate the
second
fifth
most
Die Hard.
watched Die Hard.
Okay, I did
That's
hate
legit.
the fifth
I've
one.
only
I
seen the
never
fifth
finished
one
it.
once.
I never finished the fifth one, so
I didn't
yeah.
see a fifth one.
The
Okay.
fourth one would be great if they just put the blood and swearing back in, and I think
That's
there
the
is
thing.
a cut like that. I think
Well,
a cut
that's-
like that exists.
Yeah, I have that on DVD. All the other Die Hards I have in a set on Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray of that one is the shorter cut. So if I want, that's why I maybe don't watch Die Hard 4 as much. I'm like, I don't watch DVD. I got the Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray is the edited one. I'm gonna watch the first one or the third one again, maybe even the second one.
I mean, yeah, I watched the first one like almost every Christmas. So
Yeah. Eastern Promises, great movie. Let's
Mark's
see.
just gonna stay on this list forever.
Rush Hour 3. Rush Hour 3. It's always weird to me when I'm like,
okay.
wow.
What other game adaptations came out around this time?
We did
Was
Blood Rain
anyone
just
but
before
Uwe
this.
Boll making them?
He made Blood Rain.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, he did make blood. All he made was video game adaptations at first, with some kind of
Mhm.
tax incentive or whatever. That's why Alone in the Dark. Like I've seen House of the Dead, and that one is almost incomprehensible. That's what I was expecting this to be, because that's like I've seen like the movies that he wrote and directed, and those are they're what you think they would be. But then he made like all the video game adaptations, and like House of the Dead has actual footage from the video game just randomly spliced into it in a way that makes no sense, and like lots of like wannabe Matrix kind of shit where the camera spins around people, but it's just like a guy running around someone in the backyard. the whole thing feels like it was filmed in someone's backyard. It's really cheap and terrible, but like that's more what I was expecting. So when it had this like professional polish to it, I was actually impressed. I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, I guess with a budget he can make something. But like I give him credit for even being able to put all this stuff together. It's hard to get stuff financed. So
Yeah, I mean, I got the feeling like maybe right off the camera there were some decent craft service tables, you know, in this movie.
Well, around this time, Hitman movie, which I heard was bad, the first Hitman movie.
The Resis are already going, right?
Yeah, Resident Evil, I think 3, Extinction. Extinction.
I
maybe
haven't
the
actually
third
watched
one.
them. I haven't actually watched them. I'm just going by when
I've seen like 2 of them, I think.
Wait, this is directed by the guy who did Highlander?
Happened, which yeah, he does a lot of great stuff. A lot of really amazing stuff.
I just thought Paul W.S. Anderson directed every single Resident Evil film.
No, he came back though. He had to come back and save the franchise.
Well, the last one I watched that he directed, I fucking hated, and I walked out. It was, wow. He's only made a couple of. He's only made a couple of things. Russell Mulcahy has only done a couple of things after that, including Teen Wolf, the movie from 2023. It's Teen Wolf, the movie.
The movie of the show of the movie.
Yes.
But it was already a movie.
But now it's a movie again.
Okay.
There was a DOA Dead or Alive came out. Silent Hill, which was great.
DOA is great. That's a Corey Yoon joint.
That's softcore porn.
Is it just boobs physics for the whole movie?
Yeah,
did he do? Oh yeah, he did direct it. Okay. Well, I never saw it.
Does it matter that half of us had no idea that this was a video game adaptation, even after finishing the movie? I think that's probably.
But with the title like a dungeon siege tale, like what else was it going to be?
It did seem kind of convoluted, but I thought maybe it was a German thing. I don't know.
I looked up the video game a little bit. It's like a year 2000 PC action RPG. It has its fans, but like it's a game where you just click on stuff. You click on enemies and your dude hits them, and you do that for 20 hours. Seems to be the game. I'm a console gamer. I don't know PC stuff. It looked boring as ass.
Yeah, and it came after Diablo, apparently. I don't know. I've never played a Diablo game. I kind of don't know if I want to.
I know that I don't want to.
Yeah.
The only time I've played them, I spent like a month just mindlessly clicking, and I was like, okay, I think I'll stop doing that now. It's just a hole that sucks up your life and you don't remember doing anything. But it's fun for that time.
Yeah, it's like if I need friction in video games. I want to be punished and challenged.
Friction on my dick and friction on my joystick.
Yep. It's at the same time. You know, you can play some of those games one-handed. It's like always the top comment under like a hentai game that goes on sale. You can play this one-handed. Wonder if any of those will turn into a movie. Anyway,
isn't the whole like Fate is like a really popular anime series, and it kind of started with a hentai game.
Interesting.
Sorry, what series?
Fate.
Okay, that
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Ambiguous word. It just kind of went straight through my head, you know. What are the ghouls in here? The Krug. I mean, I just want to call them the orcs. Krug.
It sounds like a Futurama joke.
Yeah,
like Krugs.
How'd you feel about the Krugs? I thought they were like entertainingly derpy.
Yeah, didn't really get a look at one.
It seemed they just had put. It seemed like they just had like crumpled fabric on their face or something, like it was a mask.
There's a few where they look like Ninja Turtle, kind of like Beast Men or something. Like they look like Beastmaster characters or something like that would pop up in like an 80s fantasy. But like most of the time they just have hoods over them, but occasionally they would pull them up and you'd see like a cool little monster mask. But yeah, they were pretty vague with them the entire time. But I thought they were pretty cool designs. I don't know. I thought they reminded me of something like a cheesy 80s fantasy movie. But
I mean, this could have been the best Masters of the Universe movie ever if it just came out in like 1986 and they changed the names of people. I guess you'd have to have a Skeletor, but
I guess that's where this
is Skeletor in this, basically.
Yeah,
Ray Liotta is Skeletor.
Yeah.
it could have been Skeletor.
Jason
Frank
Statham is
Langella is-
Prince Adam.
Yeah.
Does that make John Rhys Davies Orko?
Yeah, basically.
There aren't a whole lot of orcos in this. This is a lot of like adults, I
Or
think.
would Matthew Lillard be evil?
Well, yeah,
Orko?
there's only like one
Yeah, I know
child
he
in the
would.
film, and he gets murked at the
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
You'd expect that they'd off his wife, right? But or both of them, gladiator style. But yeah.
Mhm.
Nah,
Just
a kid.
impale them both on the same sword.
Yeah, something like that. So that was mildly unexpected. Well, I wrote like his family's about to die, aren't they, in my notes, right? But then I was like, oh no, they just killed the kid. Okay, I thought they'd go a little further than that.
Well, that was sort of a good thing. This story was easy to understand, but it wasn't. I never felt like I was going by the numbers. I didn't feel like I knew exactly what was going to happen. Which
Your
is
summary was really sweaty, like in an entertainment, in an entertaining way. But yeah,
I've been kind of. If you can't tell, listeners, I'm kind of sick, so my brain ain't all there. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, so that's why. But yeah, it was. I understood while I was watching it, but it was harder to understand when I was writing it down after I was done watching it.
I wrote down a couple quotes. I guess there were, I guess it's an outside script in this case, right? But right, what did I write down?
Yeah, the guy spent like a year rewriting it so it would be less like Lord of the Rings.
Only fools give their lives to kings. Yeah, okay, that's real, man. Of course, the men try and take advantage of me because I'm a woman. That seems like a kind of weird line. Taken by the Krug. That sounds like an old school hip hop song. I'm just looking at what I wrote down.
By the Krug.
What was the little quote that Jason Statham repeated, and it turned out he got it from the king? It's like a life of hard toil makes a man of courage, or something like that.
I didn't write that one.
Work will set us free.
Well, if you own your own, it's easy to say that when you own your own farm. If you work for the guy who owns the farm, maybe not so much.
Are we really at such a low point that we're looking at medieval like farming peasants and being like, man, you had it good. You don't even know.
I might, everyone I know is on strike right now, or they're out of work because someone else is on strike.
But once you add in
which I totally support.
When you add in the smells of the medieval times, you probably don't want to be there. We live in a better smelling place, I think. I mean, I don't know, but I know what Luke's place smells like, but I don't know about you other guys.
I mean, I live in a place with carpet now, so it smells like disgusting. Basically, okay, I have an air purifier, but it smells bad.
So Farmer has it better than you. Okay, so
I mean, he owns a farm. You would give me a farm?
I'd be
doing great.
Farm. Yeah,
give me a farm.
And then he gets
work all day.
A kingdom. He gets a kingdom after that. He gets to go from farm to kingdom.
Yeah, simple. He gets to farm the human bodies now.
He could farm at his castle, probably. I mean, you could set up a little vegetable garden, a victory garden, because he was victorious.
Have you played Fable 3?
Maybe he'll be a good king because he's just committed to like agriculture and.
Yeah, he's just people. Like. The age of farming is upon us, and everyone is just farming all the time, and there's just like vegetables everywhere, and it's great.
Agriculture and slaughtering monsters. That is Monster Hunter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could eat Krug meat, probably.
Don't they like dissolve when you kill them? Or is that just in your captains?
Mouth. You need to kill them
right.
like maybe you have to do it a certain way, kind of like how there's halal style meat. You have to slit the the Krug's throat and let it bleed out, and then you can eat the Krug meat.
Yeah, but you can't eat the Krug with cheese on top of it or something.
I think you better just raise your own army of Krugs.
Okay, shit.
Because if you have an army of Krugs, you could just like invade restaurants and get the food for free. I think.
Wait, but then where's the food come from? Because we were talking about feeding Krug to people. Then is that where the food comes from?
You're giving up on Krugs. You're getting the Krugs to help you instead, and going to.
Yeah, but we were talking about feeding a kingdom. You've just gone back to feeding yourself.
You've just gone back to war.
That would be a terrible king, is what we've learned.
I'm invading the Applebee's with an army of Krugs. That's what I'm doing as king.
Have you ever played Fable 3, Matt?
I haven't played anything.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask because that is a game about where you're a peasant and then you're a king by the end.
Sounds like that'd be several games. Isn't that half the Dragon Quest games?
Actually, by the time you're done, it's like that was all, but it was pretty fun.
Okay.
It was a notoriously half-assed implementation of the ideas, but
Have you played Krug 3? It's where you start as a Krug and you end as a Krug. Big
yeah,
And then you become
yeah.
a cannibal
Krug 3
Krug,
now.
eating Krug meat.
Krug 3, it's like free on itch.io or something.
You can only Krug meat if a Krug kills another Krug. If you kill the Krug, it dissolves.
Krug
It's
must
like
not
the
kill
whole
Krug.
if you
So
hit
wait, can we
if
like
you hit some
drill
roadkill, you
down-
can't eat it, but someone else does, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can we drill down on what Krugs actually are? Are they summoned by the dark magician? Like, are they ethereal? Or are they like actual creatures that are alive? I never really understood. Like, if there's like a one shot where they're like down mining, kind of like orcs, I guess, or something. And I'm like, are they coming from there, or are they just summoned by the sorcerer? I never really.
I think you
think
just
he-
discovered the secret between the first draft
Well,
and the making
according
it
to
less Lord of the
Dungeon
Rings
Siege
draft.
Wiki,
uh,
Krug are primitive humanoids native to the lands of Ebb. Although they have been around for as long as anyone can remember, they don't seem to possess the intelligence to develop on their own.
yeah, and
So they're
basically
homunculuses then.
they're just cool with Ray Liotta being their king, and then they gets all that power because
Oh, he's
of
so
that
charming.
cool loophole.
So it's basically like Palpatine summoning all the Star Destroyers out of Exegol or whatever the fuck at the end of Rise of
Like,
Skywalker.
yeah, I
like,
guess
they're all
that makes sense.
fully staffed with like stormtroopers and shit for some reason, even though they come out of the ground. And I guess he
Yeah.
uses powers to conjure that or these people all lived under the ground. I don't know. Either way,
Yeah.
that's what I'm assuming is the Krug situation.
Yeah, and
I guess-
Palpatine has a stadium full of Sith, even though we're told that there are only like 2 Sith at a time, but there's also a stadium with like 1,000 of them, and they're
You know
just
what's
there to
awesome? You know what's awesome? I don't
Yeah.
remember any of the stuff you're talking about whatsoever.
watch.
Every time I've talked to someone about that movie, they're like, "I watched it once. I don't remember anything about it."
Yeah, that's where I am. I remember Ray talking down a underground slug. That's about it.
I remember it was like Kylo Ren and Rey were like just fighting over whether a ship could take off by using lightning to like just throw a ship around, and I laughed like until I cried because that's so goddamn ridiculous.
What kind of crying is that? Like it's funny, or just like, oh no, I'm watching this movie crying?
It's so
in
funny that
despair?
I laughed until I cried. I laughed a lot at that movie.
I want to read you a line from dungeonsiege.fandom.com/wiki/Krug.
So I don't.
In
In
have
the
to click on
movie
that link
Dungeon
myself.
Siege in the Name of the King, the Krug appear to be larger and more cannibalistic than their Dungeon Siege 1 counterparts. They cause serious havoc for the protagonist during the movie.
They certainly did.
Also, Matt, I just sent you a link that I saw on this page.
Oh, Disco Krug, yeah.
Man, you know what? I looked up Rule 34 Krug, and there are only 4 entries.
Wow.
No, that's sad.
Not a lot of Krug fic out there.
Yeah. Well, this is a movie that apparently cost 60 million to make, and it made 13 million. So I hope
They
I don't.
still
Well,
made 2 sequels somehow.
Yeah, it made more money on home video because obviously a lot of confused people bought it.
it must be
Well, it
that
probably
like
got a pretty limited
It didn't even.
cinematic release,
It didn't even.
right?
In the States, it didn't even crack the top 10 on its release weekend and made like $2 million.
I don't remember that at all. I mean, I don't remember this movie coming out. I
Well,
don't know that
clearly
I
you
would have
don't.
seen
was
it.
a flop.
I don't know that I would have seen it even if I did know about it. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm looking up Dungeon Siege, and oh no, these are the video games. I forgot IMDb has video games. Never mind. I was like,
I actually watched the sequel because I thought that's what we were talking about. So I saw that one first. And then I watched the 3-hour director's cut of the first one. And the sequel stars Dolph Lundgren. And
Oh.
it's
Wow.
very boring. It's
Oh.
not much happens.
Thank you for your service, man.
yeah.
The one good thing I can say about it is at the beginning he's like a karate instructor, because I guess this is one where it's like Beastmaster 2. He's going to travel back in time, and he's like in the present day in the beginning. Some bullshit. I don't know. Anyway, Dolph Lundgren is a karate instructor for a bunch of 8-year-olds, and he's doing a demonstration, and he almost chokes someone out to death, and just in a demonstration for children for some reason. He's like really got to prove something. That was the most interesting thing that happened in the movie, because I was just like, wait, what is happening? Why is he trying to murder this man in front of these children? But not worth it. And then 3, I guess he did all 3 of them, but I think the budgets got very
diminishing returns.
Looks like he produced the 3rd one, if I'm reading this correctly. Yes, okay. He produced the 3rd. No, he directed it. I'm sorry. Dominic Purcell. Oh, it's the guy from Flash is in it.
Like
stars in it. The
like
guy
the
who's
bad
like
guy from for the
the
first
guy
one?
who's like the bad guy who's like he talks like this. So not really, doesn't seem like he'd be leading man material. I guess he could do something else if he wanted, but this is coming in at 3.0, so this is in our future somewhere.
Might not have enough reviews.
Yeah, it has to. It has
Oh,
to get
yeah.
10,000 votes to end
Good
up on the
point.
list.
Well, doesn't wait, he's got a gun? No, that's not, never mind.
He's got a
IMDb is so
gun.
confusing. He's got a gun. No, IMDb is so confusing because it
Drug
shows
with a gun.
trailers
I'd
of
watch that.
everything. Yeah.
I think he has a gun, like, because he starts out in the New York.
Oh yeah, you're right. Modern day hitman. Yeah.
It's like Night in King Arthur's Court or whatever the fucking Connecticut Night. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, Connecticut Night and King Arthur's.
Yeah.
All up
Whatever
in King Arthur's shit.
I don't know.
Connecticut Night in King Arthur's Yankee Stadium.
20,000 leagues under King Arthur's Court.
Yeah.
I started looking at I started looking at the 10-star reviews for this, and this isn't one I want to use, but I do want to put this image in your mind because they've mistyped the monsters as Krangs, and I was like, how good would this movie be if it was a bunch of Krangs from Ninja Turtle, like outside of the robot, just a bunch of brains slithering around in the forest trying to kill you? That'd be awesome. So I that's me plussing up this movie. Okay, sorry, that's my tangents over.
Killer brains are an underutilized bad guy. They're very cool. You mentioned
squishies.
writer earlier, and I got to point something out about the fact that this writer has done. They wrote Splice. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that's
one of my favorite.
Name of the King wrote Splice.
Oh my god!
A movie starring Wings Hauser called The Carpenter, which is pretty insane and weird. But yeah, like that. Splice is like a weird kind of David Cronenberg-esque movie that Guillermo del Toro produced that came out in like 2010.
It was made by the guy who directed Cube, which is another Canadian guy by the name of Vincenzo Natali. Yeah, Splice is one of my favorite movies of the 21st century. I absolutely loved it. Went to see it opening night. There's the scene where like these two specimens are supposed to be introduced to this like board meeting, and they just kill each other, and it's blood just goes everywhere, and it's incredible. It's it's a great movie. Anyway,
I just think that's one of the more fascinating things. It's like you look someone up, and it's like, oh, they did all these like different types of jobs and like just completely bizarre different projects that they worked on. You see that a lot of like cinematographers. They'll like do like 20 romantic comedies and then Apocalypse Now or some shit. You're just like, oh, wait, your list of films is quite amusing.
Yeah, for sure.
Take the work you can get, I guess.
Shall we put the question on this one, if it's a film or if it's a filth?
It's a film. I think the more interesting question is, how did this end up on this list?
I think
Boll's
it must be
reputation.
Uwe Boll's reputation.
There's more
Video game
Uwe Bolls
adaptation.
above it, right?
Like people love to latch on to so and so is bad and then not give anything they ever do a chance ever.
Well, this
and
it was about this time when there was a petition, the like change.org petition, and maybe it wasn't that, but to get him to stop making movies, right?
Yeah, it's like, but he leans into it because I think he thinks it's funny and ridiculous, which it is. I mean, the idea of him boxing his critics is also ridiculous and kind of fun. I mean, unless he attacks someone who didn't ask for it, I guess. But I don't know.
Get in a ring for a fight with someone, that's asking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Is this on a top 100 list? No, but I had
It should be on a
fun time
bottom
watching
100 list for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And I
I-
don't even know if like fans dislike this. Like, there's not that many Dungeon Siege fans out there. It's not like this is a super beloved property they've pissed on.
Yeah,
How-
that
what
It
if-
seemed to be a pleasant enough film, like a decently made film, featured characters and monsters from the series. Like,
maybe it's nothing like the game at all, and people are mad. I have no idea. Like Matt, you didn't play a whole lot of Street Fighter before watching the Chun-Li movie, right? I mean, did you?
Well, I like 20 years ago. I played a whole bunch of Street Fighter.
I guess everybody's played Street Fighter, and that's part of the
Yeah,
problem
I
with
think
that movie.
everybody's played Street Fighter, so it certainly wasn't coming in cold on that one. Did I play a bunch of it right before we did the podcast? No, but
I did.
I made a point to go and play some in an arcade before we did the podcast.
I guess that's worthwhile.
I mean, I worked on an Excel spreadsheet yesterday, and that's about the same as playing Dungeon Siege, from what I can tell. So,
Yeah, I've been car shopping. I think that's actually more exciting.
yeah, fuck you, PC gamers. That's the official message of this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not building a PC so I can play games again right now.
I was thinking about the Warcraft movie, which I have not seen, to be honest, but that's coming in the other way, where it's like a supposedly very good director. So,
and that film has like its little
Wait,
base
Warcraft?
of like mega fans. Yeah,
what did I say?
Yeah,
I know that this movie
David
is about-
Bowie's son.
Yes.
Yeah, one of my notes is that this movie is about as good as Warcraft. Like,
Yeah,
like honestly,
that would.
like she got like the really good effects that movie has, but the writing and like the world building, I was like, this is on par with that.
The thing about Warcraft is that it had way like a ton of CGI characters, whereas
yeah.
this
I would rather watch a bunch of actual dudes in armor in the woods than a bunch of CGI.
especially when it's a bunch of incredible actors who are, even if some of them are phoning it in, that's fine because they're
Well, even the actors I
mostly
didn't
good.
know before watching this were pretty good. Like
Yeah,
the captain of the Knights or whatever, he was decent.
yeah.
I'd
Commander
watch him in an
Teresh.
action film. Yeah.
Just to answer your earlier question, we do not meet Mr. Boll again until December 2025, at which point Blood Rain
Jesus.
comes on the list. After that, I think we get a couple more. Alone in the Dark is there. House of the Dead is there. So, yeah, he's like this. If the point here is just to shit on Uwe Boll, being just at number 91 actually means like there's must be some love for this movie.
Yeah, it's only made this list because some jokester thinks it's funny to rate all the Uwe Boll movies a 0 and write some review where they're trying to prove that they're the new angry video game nerd or whatever.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to remember that we are just starting out on the bad list and will be sinking. So this is kind of the best of the bad, even though
Right, but I mean, there's a
huge
fucking
spread.
billion movies.
Yeah,
You should be able to find 100 that are actually bad.
yeah.
My problem, well, it's
I think
we're
it's
going on a rating by the public, and the public are idiots.
I don't know if I could find. I don't know if I could find you 100 movies that I hate, which is kind of funny to say because I'm sure
I could
I've seen.
I
find you
could just
100
go
movies
to a
that bore me.
second-hand shop and buy some shitty second-hand DVDs. I could find you worse films than this.
Yeah,
So I have
think
two. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the threshold also kind of keeps people out. Like, it depends on like a movie that a ton of people see that they also think is bad, which like people, like normal people have to see it, I guess, is more like people who aren't trying to see every movie ever made, and I think that's what pushes some of these movies really high and I think it was also being compared to Lord of the Rings, which is what it was like advertised as at the time and stuff like that. So it's also timing for a lot of times in movies like this. Like I said, I think you put this on streaming now and people wouldn't bat an eye. They'd be like, "Oh no, it's pretty good." But it's just like when it came out and like expectations of what a movie would be like. I think that's a big thing too. Is like you didn't see a lot of movies like that looked that cheap, and maybe if it was in a theater, people would be like, "What is this?" But now, if you saw a movie that looked that cheap, it'd just be normal because everything kind of looks cheap, unless it's like $100 million movie, and even those have these really bad.
I've seen The Flash. That doesn't look very good, and that was not cheap.
We've all, as a society, kind of given up on CGI ever looking better. So it's like looking at this is from like 15 years ago. It doesn't really look that much worse than a Netflix or Disney Plus show.
it has the same kind of vibe in the sense that it probably like they didn't have like a lot of they just had some cameras, some lights, and like a few costumes, and they shot it best they could or whatever. Like that's like a lot of the streaming material, but people have become more used to that. Whereas I think if you throw this in a theater back then, and a lot of stuff that's on Netflix now, you throw it in the theater, and people be like, "What the fuck is this?" It's like all like how you deliver it, I guess.
Well,
And the
yeah,
expectation for a movie back then were that it would have probably be pretty big budgeted. I think if it was some kind of fantasy thing in a movie theater, I guess. I don't.
I genuinely have a problem with how Marvel movies build up the end, and then they're like, "Whoa, here it comes," and it's like a ton of stuff all happening at once in CGI that's like very difficult to parse, and it's not interesting, and you're not actually worried about anything happening to your heroes.
The big brown
The
Endor black
battles in
blob.
this were better than the battle in Endgame.
Yeah, I agree.
About as long
Actual
as the
actors
one
were
I
on
was watching.
screen.
Like
Yeah,
he does leg drops and throwdowns and stuff, which is fun too. Like he's not just swinging swords; he's like drop kicking
yeah.
and stuff. It's that was like one thing I really enjoyed about the action is that it was like over the top and kind of like silly with some martial arts and almost like wrestling moves thrown in and stuff. It was that was
Yeah.
like a highlight.
I mean, the forest nymphs only really existed to show up as badass ninjas, and that was amazing.
It's funny. So I've got two reviews here. One is probably more entertaining, but it is snarky. The other one is less entertaining, but actually an earnest 10-star review. Which one do you want to hear?
Okay.
Just
I want the earnest
read me,
10-star.
yeah, the earnest
Okay,
one.
let's do the earnest one first. Maybe we got time for both. 10 out of 10, a pretty nice movie. Malsidon. I really like this one. I looked into the movie and a couple scenes really just catched me. After that, I just kept watching. It's a one thing led to another with a variety of characters in a medieval setting. There are a lot of emotions that are visualized that I really like. The interaction, the banter in between the characters, the acting is very good. The story is simple. A one thing leads to another structure built set by set, and such progresses throughout. It doesn't quite make sense, but it seems earnest. That's my aside. It's a lot like a
That just
theater
reminded
play.
me though. I was watching the film and I was like, oh, this is fun, this is good. And then there's the little scene where him and his like the king reconnect right before the king dies. And I was literally sat there eating my lunch, like, fuck, this film just made me feel an emotion.
No, the next
the
line,
part where they were gonna have the duel and like where the Commander Teresh was gonna fight like Matthew Lillard, I was like, oh shit. And I was like, I did not feel this excited during most of maybe half the movies we've seen so far.
Luke, you're going to agree with the next sentence here more. It's a lot like a theater play, but without its limitations. So getting back to your pantomime thing, right? The fighting scenes are also pretty good. There's plenty of action. The actors are doing a very good job. They are obviously veterans. The characters and their interactions are done well. The settings and decorations are very good, rougher, more like how old movies used to be. Overall, I really like this movie. 0 out of 2 found this helpful.
Was the one you read as snarky that this is the greatest fantasy movie of our time?
Here, I'll read that one because it's not that long. Unintended brilliance. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. The movie is meant to be a larger than life picture, such as Lord of the Rings, but falls terribly short. So short, in fact, that it's gut wrenchingly hilarious. I've watched this movie more than almost any other movie I've seen. The acting is either overdone or underdone for most of the film. The script is bland and doesn't usually fit into the anticipated atmosphere of the scene. Jason S. uses a boomerang to kill Krug, which are supposed to be like orcs on Lord of the Rings. They look more like dirty Power Rangers. Bernard plays an emotionless king and is such a golden aspect of the unanticipated humor. I can't recommend this film enough. You will not regret watching this with a few lighthearted friends. An easy 10-star. 8 out of 13 found that helpful, which I feel like the Ernest one was more helpful. I don't know.
Okay, I want to do this one.
Okay,
this is the greatest fantasy movie of our time by Eldrake 8. This movie has everything needed to be considered the greatest fantasy epic of our time. Spoiler alert, Krugs, dark magic, intrigue, Ray Liotta, ninjas, Braveheart, Burt Reynolds, women on magical vines, Gladiator, accents, Neo, and the best CGI since Van Helsing. Like Big Fish, it is a father-son reconciliation story. Like Top Gun, it is a story of men at war with Krugs lighting themselves on fire before being launched from catapults. Awesome. Every minute you watch this movie, you'll find yourself saying, I can't believe what I am seeing. I can't believe what I'm hearing. I can't believe that humans made this. This is why I'm drawn to film. Poets sometimes talk of the shock of recognition that it is in all great art. That shock you feel at seeing something familiar in a fresh way, a new perspective on a familiar scene. In the Name of the King embodies that kind of art. It is truly a film for the 22nd century mind. 9 out of 30 found this helpful.
I
Forward
think
thinking.
I agree with all of that, unironically.
Yeah, me too.
I think Lawrence of Arabia would have been greatly improved by dudes catching themselves on fire and getting into catapults.
Oh hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Okay. I'm seeing if there's any other of the filth that I would put above this one. Speed 2 still gets the crushing the town. That was cool.
Yeah, Speed 2 is pretty great, but like this
If you
has
put
better.
Statham in the lead role, then yeah, Speed 2 would be
Oh,
better.
then that'd be a
Lord.
phenomenal movie. Yeah.
That'd be too
okay.
much. Yeah.
I think we're going to get that, which is also directed by Ben Wheatley, which is the other thing that's blowing my mind.
Oh yeah.
Is that
Yeah, he made High Rise is one of my favorite movies the last 20 years.
he's only made movies like that. He's never made anything like this. He's made like 13 like small kind of weird crime dramas and art films or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I don't
I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna go back and watch the first Meg just so I can watch the Ben Wheatley Meg.
Philip, you can answer this if you know the answer, but I guess this is more for Luke and Mark. This are the Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas.
I
Oh,
like
this.
this better.
Very
Yeah,
much
I like
this.
this better.
Okay, because they are kind of different. I had fun watching both, right?
The Flintstones was like that's cute, that's endearing, but this is like I am into this.
The Flintstones, I was enjoying it for about 20 minutes, and then I got so bored.
Okay.
Whereas this, I genuinely watched the whole film and had a good fun.
Yeah, this one's a better watch through. I guess the Flintstones for me is just like that's exactly the kind of insane art direction that I want to see. You know,
Yeah.
But this one is a little more like warmed over Lord of the Rings as it was meant to be.
But I'm definitely much more of a fantasy guy than you, Matt. So
true. Flintstones historical epic.
no, I mean I'm just saying I'm a fantasy guy. You know, like.
Will you be in my fantasy?
Poets say they die.
I'm not much of a fantasy guy, but I like the scale of this fantasy. Like I generally tend to like small scale stuff, which is why I love the Green Knight. Like that's a fantasy.
Green Knight
film.
is phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah, but sometimes
I watched that alone in a theater which we have near where I live. That's like an old converted. I don't know if it was like a theater before it was a movie theater or like a church or something, but it's just a hall with like plastic seats. And I was alone watching The Green Knight, and it was incredible.
Wow, perfect. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That and The Northman from recent years. Both you guys should see The Northman. It's really great. You've seen The Northman, right, Phil?
the movie that ends the same way that Christmas Evil ends.
Yeah.
Well, it's Revenge of the then it's Christmas Evil.
Oh God. Christmas Evil. You can't get a much better comparison than that.
All movies should end like Christmas Evil, honestly. Like that's
for sure.
the ultimate ending to a movie.
We're stuck with what are we stuck with? Black Christmas, I think. Yeah.
I heard people like Black Christmas. Is that on the bad list?
It's probably the
course
most, which I haven't seen, but the original and the first remake are both actually amazing. Like genuinely some of the best movies ever.
Black Christmas is a guest requested episode.
Cool. Yeah, I've never seen it. That's been on my want to watch list for a long time. But I have friends who watch Christmas Evil every year, so I saw that first.
As long as they're in the
All right,
same
should we wrap this
wheelhouse.
up? I want to go to the gym.
Okay.
All right.
Plugging people, plug.
Yeah,
I'm
Phil,
just
you got
shouting
plugs?
Unplug.
Phil, you got plugs?
I don't know.
Where can people
maybe
find you?
I guess my Instagram mostly right now. Films on Gray Velvet, with underscores. That's mainly where I post right now.
Phil's good about posting stories that are fun and posting lots of them. I'd never post anything. So
Yeah, I'm wearing a plug right now.
I'm gonna go put a plug in. All right, whatever. Our plugs. Hey, support us on patreon.com/podcastia. Find all our podcasts there. Film podcasts about films, podcasts about TV, podcasts about games.
Podcast.
Podcast.
Okay. I mean, boxing is a solitary sport, right? You just it's one could do it
When-
against the other. But if Uwe Boll had gone for wrestling, I would have been on his tag team back again. Yeah. Based on this.
I
movie.
would pay $25 to see Uwe Boll fight someone.
I'm kind of
God,
depressed
It's
that
Matt Just with the steel chair.
You're on
I
his
do-
side now, but you haven't made it to his other movies yet. Like
That's true.
Yeah,
I
it
just-
has to be something. I've seen the trailer for Blood Rain, and it did kind of make my skin crawl.
Maybe I want to be on the other tag team eventually. We'll see. I don't know. But for now,
But, you
I'm
know.
depressed that I bought Once Upon a Time in America on Blu-ray for $4, and I did not buy this instead on Blu-ray for $4. That's what I should have done.
Yeah, always the correct choice.
All right.
I'm
Look
hitting-
out for Krugs.
Mm.